The move to go from one side of the river to the other side of the river is called the ferry. If we wanted to head over here and just head it across the river, the current would push us lower and lower and we'd end up way down here. In this example, it's okay, but in many of the other examples we just showed you, you wanted to stay up high because there was some kind of obstacle below. The solution is to go across the river at an angle. The current's pushing you down, but you're paddling up and you're also paddling some across. In this example, Greg's going at about 45 degrees, which is a pretty typical ferry. Occasionally, you may have to have less angle or more angle. We're going to leave a red star up here for the rest of our examples and assume that's the target. That's where we're trying to head. It's not so easy to maintain this perfect angle. Sometimes the current will grab your bow and push you downward. If that happens, use a forward sweep stroke to correct. Again, whenever possible, use forward sweep strokes to correct your angle. By using a forward sweep stroke, look where Greg ended up. It's tempting to use back sweep strokes to correct. They're powerful, but they push you backward, and look where he ends up after he's done that. Obviously, you can get off course with either too much or too little angle, but either way, back strokes are not the way to correct. Here, Greg had to make several corrections, but he used only forward strokes, and he really didn't come out all that bad considering. Your angle coming out of the eddy is critical. If you use too little angle, the eddy line will reject you and you'll end up right back where you started. On the other hand, if you use too much angle, you'll immediately be blown downstream. You want to start a ferry from as high in an eddy as you can. If you start lower, like here, you end up lower. As you cross the eddy line, you have to make sure that you have some downstream edge. If not, you'll be upside down. But you don't want too much edge or you'll be blown off course and headed downstream. As you cross the eddy line, you should be stroking on the downstream side of the boat. This force will turn you upstream while the current is grabbing you and trying to push you downstream, so you'll stay on course. If you stroke on the upstream side of the boat as you cross the eddy line, both the stroke and the current will be turning you and you will get off course. You've got to paddle steadily to complete the ferry. Some beginners stop paddling as they cross the eddy line, and it sends you downstream. So far we've shown our ferries coming out of the eddy, maintaining a steady ferry angle, and then keeping that ferry angle right as we go into the opposite side eddy. Sometimes what works better is to, at the last minute, fall off our ferry angle, pick up a little speed, and use that speed to punch through the eddy line. Here's the same thing again. We come out of the eddy, we maintain a steady ferry angle, then at the last minute we fall off, pick up some speed, and use that speed to punch through into the opposite eddy. In all our examples so far, we've left one eddy, ferried across the river, gone into the eddy on the other side of the river. Obviously, we've also haven't shown it, but we've returned, left the target eddy, ferried across the river, and gone back to the original eddy. Sometimes you can't find the perfect place where you can keep going back and forth from eddy to eddy. Or maybe for a beginner, It's hard to go from the eddy out into the current. If that's the case, you can practice this ferrying skill right out in the current as you float downriver, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Many times we'll use a wave or a hole to help us with our ferry. This is called a power ferry. What's happening here is the power of the wave or hole keeps us from getting flushed downstream as quickly, so we can make it across the river easier or higher. Many times we will combine a ferry and a peel out so that we ferry across the river above an obstacle and then peel out to get into the main current and head downstream.